lesson is on equations of lines. What is a linear equation? Notice that that word linear has another word inside of it, line. So when we say linear equation, we are talking about an equation of a line. If we were to graph that equation, it would look like a straight line. And there's three different ways that we can write these linear equations. One is called the slope-intercept form, which you learned in algebra. M, we just learned in the previous section. Whoops. M stands for slope. And B is your y-intercept. The second form that you may not be familiar with is called the point-slope form. This is if you have the slope given to you, or you can find it if it's on a graph and you can figure out your rise over run. Or you could use your slope formula. So if you're given two different points, you could figure out your slope. And 1 point. Okay, so x and y here comes from your actual point that is on the line. And then the third form is called the standard form. You have a positive whole number here in front of your x, positive whole number here in front of your y, and that equals just a whole number with no x or y. So all three forms have an x and a y in their equation. So let's use these forms to see if we can write the equation of a line. Write an equation in slope-intercept form. So it's very important that you read the description, read the instructions carefully so you know which form you're supposed to put it in. Okay, so slope-intercept form. That means I'm doing y equals mx plus b. Okay, so now I have to ask myself, do I know the slope? So I'll go back up to my equation with slope of 6. So yes, I do. B stands for y-intercept. Do I know the y-intercept? Go up here. Yes, I do. The formula has to have an x and a y in it, so I have to leave my x and y, and that is all I do. That is the answer for this question. Pretty straightforward. You just plugged it in. So we didn't have to go find anything there. Here we are to write the equation in point-slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, so we start off with our formula. Again, the x and the y have to stay there. So I need numbers for y1, m, and x1. What does m stand for? Slope. So I go up to my equation. Do I have the slope? Yep, I do. So I'm going to put -3/5 here. I know that x is going to stay there. So now I need a point with an x and a y value in it. Do I have a point that's on that line? I sure do, right here. Which one is my x value? It's going to be my -10. So I'm going to put -10. Don't forget, you need to put this negative here. This negative that is in the equation does not substitute for that negative on that 10. You need both negatives there. Now on my left side of my equation, my y is going to stay. Again, I'm subtracting the y value of my point. Now, I need to simplify. It says to leave it in point-slope form, so I don't have to do much. I'm not trying to rearrange it to get it into y equals mx plus b. I have -3/5 x. A negative is a +10. And that's in parentheses. Now I do need to get rid of these parentheses by distributing, but the left side of my equation can stay as is. Actually, we're just going to leave it that way. Let's erase that. Okay, we're going to leave it and box in our answer. That is point slope form. Okay, here's another one. Write in slope-intercept form. So what is slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. It has the slope and it has the y-intercept. So do I have the slope in my equation? I do not have the slope in my equation this time. So that means I must have to find it somehow. What was our formula to find slope? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Do I have 2 points in my equation? I sure do. I'm going to call this second one listed in the equation 0.2 and the first one 0.1. So we go through our formula. y2 is 0. y1 is 9. x2 is negative 2 minus x1 is 4. Okay, so if you need to go in here and write so you don't get confused, this is x1, y1. They both have 1s on them because they're the first point. x2, y2. Then go in and mark them so you know you're putting them in the right place. Now let's continue on here. 0 minus 9 is negative 9. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. Negative over negative is a positive, and 9 over 6 will reduce. I can divide both of these by 3. I have to be able to divide them by the same number to simplify, and I get 3 over 2. So I can go up here and I can now plug in 3 halves. Remember, the x and the y stays in the equation. So now, how do I find this y-intercept? How would I find the y-intercept? Think about it, think about it. I can use my equation and I can plug in either one of those points that I know are on the line to my equation here and solve for b. So again, let's start off over here. Pick either point. Let's start off with the first point. Its y value is 9. I now know my slope is 3 halves. And my x value on the same point, I have to use the same point, is 4. And I'm looking for b. Anytime you're using an equation to find a value, you can only have one letter in that equation. If you just have one equation, you can only have one letter. So I had to get rid of my x and y. I had to replace them with something. The only x and y's I had were these two up here. So I could have picked the negative 2 and 0. And I should get the same answer no matter which one I chose. So now let's do the math. 3 halves times 4. Well, 3 times 4 is 12. I still have the 2 on the bottom. Okay, that because remember this is like 4 over 1, so I'm multiplying tops with tops, bottom with bottom. I get 12 over 2 plus b. So 9 equals, what is 12 divided by 2? 6. Now I subtract to get b by itself, and b equals 3. So my b value here is determined by this method. And this is the equation of my line in slope-intercept form. Let's see if we get the 3 if I use these two. So again, I'm going to use y equals mx plus b. My y value is 0. same slope as 3/2. And my x value is going to be -2. I'm looking for b. Okay, so 3 times -2 is -6. Remember, this is over 1, so 2 times 1 is 2. So 0 equals -3 plus b, and then I add 3 to both sides. 3 equals b. So it does not matter which point you choose to use to plug in for your x and y value. You should get the same slope either way. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. All right, let's do one more. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line containing 1, 7 that is perpendicular to line y equals 1/2 x plus 1. So slope-intercept form, again, is y equals mx plus b. So I start off with my formula so I can identify the parts that I need to know. All right, I need to know my slope. Well, if it's perpendicular to this line, what does that tell me about the slopes? Remember, perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocals. So I need to flip this upside down and change the sign. So instead of 1/2, it's going to be 2/1. Instead of negative, it's going to be positive. I can put that in here for my slope. B is my y-intercept. This is not on the y-axis, so this is not my y-intercept. I have to find it using the method we just used in the previous question. So here's my x value, here's my y value. I need to plug them in to this equation and solve for b. So 7 equals, okay, I'm going to multiply, make this a fraction, 2/1 plus b. 2/1 is the same as 2. I subtract that 2. So my b value is 5. So now I can rewrite my equation. Y equals, my slope is 2. 2/1 is the same as 2. You don't have to put it in fraction form. X plus my b value was 5. And that is the equation of my new line. What if you had a line that was graphed, like so, and you were asked to find the equation of that line? Okay, well, again, let's do it in slope-intercept form. That seems to be the most common. Y equals mx plus b. I need my slope. I can calculate it by finding the coordinates here, 2, 2, and -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -2, 5. And I can plug that in, but the easier way, I think, if they're graphed, is just to count rise over run. So I'm going 1, 2, 3 up. That's for my rise. My run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left, so it's -5. Now, what is my y-intercept? I have to kind of look and see and maybe guess. We don't want to guess. So I can pick either one of these points and put them in this equation. And your b might end up being a fraction. Okay, so I don't care which one we do. Let's do the first one. So my y value is 5. My x value is -2. I'm trying to find b. Okay, again, put this over 1, top with top, bottom with bottom. Okay, now I need to get rid of this, so I need to add 6/5 to both sides. That's a plus sign there. Well, this is 5 over 1. I can't add 5 over 1 to 6 over 5. I have to get a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this. I'm going to do it real little here by 5 over 5. That makes it 25 over 5. Okay, this is junior high math. I hope you remember it. Plus 6 over 5 is going to equal 31 over 5. I cannot reduce that. If it was 30 over 5, I could. Cannot reduce 31 over 5. So that's my b value that I'm going to go up here and put plus 31 over 5. And that is the equation of this line. So it's not always nice and pretty. Sometimes you've got to do some work. But if you follow your mathematical principles, things that you know, don't freak out. Just take it step by step, and you can do it. I have faith.